Welcome back to Pokemon episode summaries. Today, I'll be doing episode 137, Grin to Win. The episode begins with Ash and the gang walking on a path, extremely thirsty due to the fact that they now had no more water because their canteens had run out. Brock informs them that the next town was known as Bloomingdale, but it was still quite a ways away. Thankfully, Ash and Misty then spot a water source being a leaky pipe. Before they can go up to it, though, a girl appears first and is about to fix it with a wrench. Ash and the gang stop her and practically beg her to not fix it yet so they could get a drink first, and she agrees, leading Brock to thank her in his usual way of thanking, which involved flirting, because he found this girl attractive, just like any other girl. Misty drags him away as usual, not wanting to scare off the person that they just met, and she proceeds to go to the pipe and fill up her canteen, as she thanks the girl. Ash and the gang and the girl then introduce themselves, with the girl revealing her name as Sonrisa. Ash and Brock then fill their canteens, and Sonrisa proceeds to fix the pipe. However, Brock offers to do it for her, wanting to impress her. You really don't think a girl could tighten with a wrench, Brock? Are you sexist or something? Sonrisa then learns that Ash and the gang were on their way to Bloomingdale town and reveals that she was from there and offers to escort them back to her house, stating that she wanted to show them her favorite Pokemon. On the way, she tells them that Bloomingdale was known for the sun shining every day and the weather being perfect for raising her favorite Pokemon, stating that almost everyone in the town had one. When Ash and the gang arrive at Sonrisa's house, she gives them a little tour of her backyard, showing them the outside of the greenhouse, and then she also shows them her sprinkler system as she turns it on, revealing that since it was underground, it brought water from the mountains so she could use it to raise her favorite Pokemon. She demonstrates what she meant by this as she commanded her favorite Pokemon to come out of the greenhouse, and 3 flower-like Pokemon stumbled out and went under the sprinkler. 2 of them looked very happy to be being sprayed with water. However, unbeknownst to Ash and the gang, for now, the other of the flower Pokemon looked very depressed. Brock looks in his guidebook to learn more about the Pokemon, where he finds out that they were called Sunflora, and that Bloomingdale was very famous for them. Ash goes to his Pokedex for more information, which tells him that Sunflora were known as the smiling Pokemon that loved the sun, but they also needed plenty of water to ensure healthy development, insinuating why they needed so much goddamn water. Brock comments on how the Sunflora must be happy because of all the water they were getting, with Sonrisa revealing that that was her intention, as she wanted to keep them as happy as possible for the Sunflora Festival. Ash, obviously never hearing of this event, asks what it is, with Sonrisa revealing that it was a big celebration in Bloomingdale that was held every year to see who had the best Sunflora, since basically every resident in town had one, so it was a competition that every resident could really partake in. She notes how she's never won in the past, despite always entering, but believed that she could win this year if she focused on just making her Sunflora happy, instead of trying to make them perform or do something that they didn't want to do. Just then, Sonrisa's neighbor Cyrus, who had won the Sunflower Festival 3 times, then shows up by Sonrisa's fence and informs her that she was not the only one this year that was looking to make their Sunflora happy, as one of their other neighbors, named Lester, had hired a comedian to make his Sunflora laugh. The comedian did a variety of tricks, such as pie in the face, and everything. Sonrisa assures Cyrus that she believes she still had somewhat of a chance, though, as there were still a lot of Sunflora trainers who only tried to make their Sunflora the best, by having them perform special tricks, like putting on face paint, dressing up like them, a whole bunch of shit. Brock, not wanting to focus on Sonrisa talking with another guy, decides to direct his attention to the Sunflora and analyze them a little bit, where he soon realizes that one of them was actually depressed. He tries to cheer it up by making funny faces at it, but he fails. Pikachu tries as well, but he also fails. When Cyrus leaves, Sonrisa spots Brock giving a lot of attention to the depressed Sunflora, and reveals that that one was her favorite one, and the one that she usually had entered into the contest. However, after noticing that Sunflora, who she nicknamed Sunny, had suddenly become depressed, she had decided to enter in one of her other Sunflora instead, though really wished that she could go in with her usual partner. Wanting to help Sonrisa and her Sunflora, Ash and the gang agree to try their best to make Sunny happy again. However, just then, the sun began to set, and since the Sunflora liked to be out when the sun was shining, this meant that they decided to retreat to the greenhouse to sleep for the night. Now unable to help, Ash and the gang decided to find a Pokemon Center to stay the night in, but promised to come back to help Sonrisa tomorrow. As the gang walked to the Pokemon Center, Togepi waved its arms, and Brock looked in the guidebook some more. He eventually found the center's location, and they crashed there for the night, with Togepi thankfully not unleashing a metronome despite waving its arms. Meanwhile, as for Team Rocket, they had showed up at Sonrisa's neighbor Cyrus's house and tried to break in to his greenhouse as they proceeded to pick the lock. Jesse and James' initial plan was, of course, to steal Cyrus's Sunflora, but Meowth then came up with a better idea, knowing about the town's Sunflora Festival and how the grand prize was a lifetime supply of noodles. He suggested that Team Rocket simply take a look at all the Sunflora, but only steal the perfect one that would help them win the contest, so they could therefore win those noodles. Jesse and James loved this idea, as they were starving as usual, so they broke into the greenhouse and had Meowth wake all of the Sunflora with a sunlight simulator machine. Don't question how he built that, so that they could examine the Sunflora further and determine which one was the best for the contest. They were able to examine the Sunflora due to James being an expert on them, since the gardener from his grandma's estate had taught him. His grandma must have been rich too, if they had a personal gardener. But regardless, James is able to use his knowledge to analyze all the Sunflora, but unfortunately comes to the conclusion that none of them were adequate enough for the contest, as they all had issues that he pointed out. To make matters worse for Team Rocket, Meowth was suddenly startled by some of the Sunflora coming up behind him, and as a result, he accidentally pushed a button on the greenhouse wall, which activated some kind of alarm, and caused him to be caught in a net. It must have been Cyrus's security system, as he didn't want any of his Sunflora falling into the wrong hands. Immediately after hearing the alarm, Team Rocket make their escape, not hesitating at all, leaving behind Meowth in the process. They clearly didn't care about him anymore, because it was his fault for activating the alarm in the first place. Cyrus was alerted by the alarm and immediately ran to his greenhouse, but of course, all he found was Meowth, and he proceeded to tie him up. After seeing the dusty trail that Team Rocket had kicked up because they ran so fast in their escape, Cyrus assumed that there was more thieves and called for them to come back, but of course, no one did. At the very least, he had caught Meowth, and his Sunflora were safe. As for Ash and the gang during this, they had also heard the alarm, as the Pokémon Center was not located too far from Cyrus's house, and upon hearing it, they decided to take action and go investigate. So, when they arrived at Cyrus's house, where the alarm had just finished blaring, even after all this time, they asked Cyrus what happened and if he needed any help, with Cyrus revealing that he had already caught the culprit, being a cat burglar, believing it to just be a regular-ass Meowth. But when Meowth screams in panic, Ash and Misty realize that it was in fact Team Rocket's Meowth. Knowing that Meowth could talk, this gives Misty an idea, and she asks Ash if it was a good idea as she whispers it into his ear, and Ash confirms, allowing her to go through with her plan. Since when did Misty ask Ash for permission for anything? Anyways, Misty's plan was essentially to plead Meowth's innocence, stating that since Meowth didn't actually steal anything in the end, he should be let go. They also added that they would even look after him to make sure that he wouldn't do anything bad. Because of this, Cyrus agreed to let Meowth go, and gave him to them. Now, I'm sure you were wondering why Ash and the gang decided to suddenly help Meowth, and Meowth was curious too, as he questioned them. He believed that maybe they had an ulterior motive, but he thought this ulterior motive was them wanting to steal him, as revenge for Team Rocket always trying to steal their Pokemon. However, Misty revealed to him that their motive was that they wanted to force Meowth to talk to Sunny and have him translate what they said so that Ash and the gang could find out what was making Sunny upset. And therefore, Ash and the gang could help it, and the Sunflora could enter the contest. Meowth agrees, although he really didn't have much choice, because if he didn't agree, then Ash and the gang threatened to return him to Cyrus so that Cyrus could do whatever he pleased to him. Meanwhile, remember that woman Snubble from the Snubble Snobbery episode that really liked Meowth's tail and had went off in search of him? Well, that Snubble was still searching for Meowth. That'll come into play later. The next morning, Ash and the gang took Meowth to Sunrisa's house and informed her of their plan, to which she was very pleased with. Meowth did as Ash and the gang asked, translating as it talked with Sunny, and Sunny revealed that the reason why it was depressed was because its friend, one of Cyrus's Sunflora, no longer was there, adding that now that its friend was gone, it had no one it really liked to play with. This led Ash and the gang and Sunrisa to run over back to Cyrus's house and question him on where this Sunflora had gone off to, leaving Meowth behind in the process. This allowed Jessie and James to sneak up to a bush behind Sunrisa's backyard and use a lasso to rescue Meowth, pulling him with them as they escaped. It seemed they still did care about Meowth, even after his little blunder in the greenhouse. However, it was only because they intended to use him as their Sunflora in the contest. Still wanting those goddamn noodles. Meanwhile, back with Ash and the gang and Sunrisa, they had arrived at Cyrus's house and proceeded to ask him about where Sunny's friend had gone. Cyrus revealed that he had traded away the Sunflora for another Pokemon at the Pokémon Center. This new Pokemon being another Sunflora, so he really just traded away a Sunflora because he viewed it as inadequate? Fucking loser. Anyways, now knowing Sunny's friend's location, Ash and the gang and Sunrisa head to the Pokémon Center and asked Nurse Joy about the Sunflora that she was traded, leading her to bring it out and reunite it with Sunny. After this reunion with its friend, which was named Gwendella, Sunny was happy again, meaning that Sunrisa could use it in the contest. Just in time, too, because the festival was just beginning, with everyone in the crowd walking around the stands, buying food, enjoying themselves, as Ash and the gang and Sunrisa rushed there and made it just in time. Team Rocket had made it there first, and initiated their plan to make Meowth their Sunflora by dressing him up in a Sunflora costume. Meowth obviously objected to this, due to still being mad at Jessie and James for abandoning him, and just the fact that he had to get crammed into such a bad costume, but James shut up his complaints by reminding him that if they won, they would get those glorious noodles. As the contest commenced, it eventually came down to only 3 Sunflora, one of them being one of Cyrus's Sunflora, Dorabelle. Man, I really hope he doesn't win, especially since Brock had noticed that this Sunflora was on steroids, due to how humongous it was. As for the second finalist, it was Sunny, much to Ash and the gang and Sunrisa's delight. As for the final finalist, it was none other than Meowth. The 3 judges talked amongst themselves to determine who the winner would be. One of the judges preferred Dorabelle, and one of them preferred Sunny, but the other one was advocating for Meowth by stating that it could potentially be a new Sunflora variant due to how different it looked. Man, if only they knew that it was actually Meowth. Regardless of the Sunflora, quote-unquote, actually being a Meowth, this judge's argument seemed like it was enough to convince the other 2, as they were about to declare Meowth as the winner of the contest. Unfortunately for Team Rocket, though, that Snubble from earlier that I mentioned, from the Snubble Snobbery episode, showed up, having located Meowth, and instantly recognized him, despite his Sunflora disguise, so she bit down on his tail, causing Meowth to scream and jump up in pain, which in turn caused him to jump out of his costume, revealing the fact that he was in fact a Meowth, not a Sunflora. With the truth revealed, the judges were furious, and questioned why the fuck a Meowth was in the contest. Team Rocket, knowing that their jig was up, tossed off their disguises that they had on, and revealed themselves as Team Rocket as they threw a smoke bomb, so that they could change without being seen, I guess. I don't fucking know. Jessie then angrily grabs Snubble off of Meow's tail and yeets it away, fucking fuming at this point. They were so close to winning the contest and those noodles, but it was all because of Snubble that it got fucked up. Team Rocket weren't going to give up the noodles that easily, though, because they had a backup plan, as James proceeded to press a remote that activated a whole bunch of mirrors that raised up all around the stadium, that blinded the crowd, because they reflected off of the sun. The reflected sun from the mirrors then reached all the Sunflora, which, as a result, caused their heads to grow extremely big, becoming too heavy for their bodies, so they fell over, becoming immobilized and unable to do anything. Ash and the gang assumed that this was because Team Rocket wanted to disable the Sunflora so they could capture them, a usual Team Rocket plan, but Team Rocket simply cried out, demanding the noodles instead. Essentially, their plan was to immobilize all the Sunflora so that none of them could win the contest, and thus they could swoop in to get the noodles. And with all the Sunflora down, they were able to do this as Team Rocket retreated to their Meowth balloon and hooked the noodles up to the bottom. Despite no Pokemon being at risk this time, Ash and the gang still wanted to save the prize of the contest, so Ash sent out his Chikorita to battle Team Rocket, to which Jessie sent out her Arbok to counter it. Ash orders Chikorita to use Vine Whip, but before she can complete the attack, she retreats to Ash, snuggling up to him, because, she still had that crush on him after all. If only she knew that if she actually did her moves, then maybe she would have a chance. With Chikorita not currently doing anything, Misty sent out her Poliwag and had it use Tail Slap on Arbok, but Arbok then managed to corner Poliwag and use Poison Sting on it, threatening to bite down on it. Now with both Poliwag and Chikorita not doing anything, Team Rocket took the opportunity to take off in their balloon with the stolen noodles. However, Chikorita then jumped in, finally deciding to help by using Razor Leaf to cut the noodles from the balloon, sending them back down. This led James to send out his Weezing to go retrieve the noodles. However, Ash ordered Pikachu to use Thunderbolt on it first. Before Pikachu could get off the Thunderbolt, though, Chikorita immediately got rid of any goodwill that it just had with that Razor Leaf attack, as it proceeded to attack Pikachu, getting jealous of the attention that Ash was giving it. This caused Pikachu's Thunderbolt to become redirected towards all the mirrors, destroying them in the process. However, this actually worked out in Ash and the gang's favor, as with the mirrors destroyed, this meant that the Sunflora were no longer getting sunlight reflected on them, thus returning their head size to normal so they could move again. Now that Sunny could move again, Sunrisa ordered it to use Solar Beam directly on Team Rocket's balloon, which sent them blasting off. That's right, Sunrisa was the hero this time. And Sunrisa certainly gets recognition for her actions, as due to the Solar Beam attack, in addition to what the judges claim as Sunny's great smile, the judges crown Sunny as the winner of the contest. Yay! The crowd gives Sunny and Sunrisa a standing ovation, and Sunrisa gets a trophy. The episode then ends with Sunrisa thanking Ash and the gang for their crucial help with making Sunny happy again, as they wave goodbye, continuing on their journey, with Brock having tears in his eyes, sad to leave the beautiful girl Sunrisa. As for the Snubble, it was still around. It would be back.